So, welcome, lovely goddesses. How are we all doing? So, with this video, this is actually going to be more about self-reflection. I am going to share you my week from following the 10th to 10th, the 10th recording. And it's felt like much longer than a week, I have to admit. I think this is the dynamics of how so much has come through that I've had to write this down and really give myself space to process, to understand. And it's just brought so many revelations. And I really feel like I'm recording this video because it's really important to see how we are all integrating this and how we're not alone with this integration. And when we go up and down, and as we're moving through the spiral that is this healing, we will experience different things. So I really want to firstly say this feels like the consolidation of our power, of our energy. And that's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. This is about calling all parts of ourselves back to the space of wholeness that is in our heart, that is held within our bodies. So I'm recording this, navigating through autumn, coming into winter. So we're seeing on the Northern Hemisphere for autumn to winter, so is about consolidation, about the power of letting go, the releasing, how grief can be a process of abundance. So we look at nature and we may think she's withdrawing. We often will get that sense that we need to withdraw ourselves. But there's a difference between withdrawal and consolidation, depending on how you perceive it. So withdrawal may seem like you're retracting, you're coming inwards and you're shutting off. What consolidation means is that you're bringing all parts of self back to you now. And that's a real different shift. So you're staying in a very open energy, but consolidated in this wholeness. So you're not seeking or attaching energies to other people, other things, any situations. You are consolidating your energy. So we're not saying you're disconnecting from and withdrawing from people, but you may be disconnecting and releasing yourself from anything that isn't serving you anymore. So this is multiple layers in terms of how we will be processing this. And there may well be situations and people that you need to withdraw from and disconnect from. But it's not about withdrawing and coming into yourself and retracting and dimming your light. This is the real big difference. I'm seeing we're like in this white sphere of light, and we are literally through that energy and that fire, just calling all parts of self back, which is actually, when I recall, came through the last meditation. It was this energy held within Yeshua, holding the sword of truth to cleanse and clear and call back all parts of our soul. So not just in this lifetime now, in terms of the relationships and where we lose our mental energy and where we're doing and putting our physical energy into different things. This is also about reclaiming parts of ourselves that we have left behind through trauma, through acts of fear. And so when we call back these parts of self in a space of holding responsibility without the judgment, we are enabling ourselves to call back these parts, clearing and cleansing and alchemizing through the power that is Yeshua, through the light of Sophia, to release, to forgive. This is forgiveness. It's such a powerful, powerful energy. And it can often be misunderstood and thinking it's a weakness when we forgive. And I've said this before, it's the acceptance of the unacceptable not to be accepted again. And so this is the huge learning. Forgiveness is the large intestine about the final act of letting go. So if you have digestion issues, there may be a question here like, what am I holding on to? What do I need to let go of? And forgiveness isn't saying that's okay to have done what they've done. It's about saying, I choose myself. I choose my happiness. I choose my power. I choose my light. This is the difference. What you do to yourself is irrelevant for any others. This is all about the choices that you hold for yourself. And in terms of discernment, so I was talking about this with the lady. I've had so much download to me this morning, so I'm really going to try and unpack this the best I can for you. All right. So as I was walking after writing so much down, I was walking with a lady and I was explaining how, because they were having digestion issues, is that actually the stomach and the gut is this massive processing area. This is our emotional processing. This is about what we let in and what we let out. What's the inner gold? Where's the alchemy? Where's the learning? What do we take from this? What do we let go from this? You know, it's like the food that we take in. What nutrients do we need and what we don't need from them, and what we basically shite out, right? What shite are we carrying that we no longer need to carry, okay? We're shifting it, not losing it, okay? Just remember that. But the stomach itself is actually where our boundaries have failed us in a way. So when I say fail, don't put shame in attached to that. Just means because we haven't been shown them. Okay. So our energetic, our crown boundary hasn't worked. Our throat chakra hasn't worked from a boundary, and thus we get something shoved into our throat. Talk about being rammed down one's throat. It lands in the stomach. And in that stomach, the body's like, well, this isn't mine. It's not for me to process. Therefore, it stays there until we realize that and discern that it's not ours and we let go of it. Okay. The body cannot process, is not for us to take on. And many of us, especially women as children, we absorb the environment around us. We believe it's something to do with us. In fact, we think the universe revolves around us, not from an egotistical perspective, but we are directly influenced of the universe. So when things aren't good, we think it's something to do with us. We absorb the anger. We're like the peacekeepers, but sacrificed in our peace. This is a big archetype for women. And so our bodies will be absorbing so much crap that isn't ours to absorb. And it gets stuck because, especially if we think it's ours, so we hold on to it. But then we don't know what to do with it. The body doesn't know what to do with it because it's not meant to. So the real aspect and the things that I bring into on my one-to-one work with myself as well is about tuning into your body. And we'll do this in the meditation. It'll be a separate recording because there's so much to share with you here. Is that actually you need to tune into your body and thank your body for discerning what is yours and what is not yours. Discerning what is pure, what is love, joy, and peace, and what is not love, joy, and peace, and to release with ease and grace. When you keep thanking your body for this wisdom, the insight, the wisdom that's within, for having that discernment, then we are able to shift things. We're able to let things go. We have the revelations of it. We see the belief systems, the voices, the words, everything that's been spoken to us and the patterns. They all start to reveal and unpick themselves. Okay. And this is the beauty. This is when we just raise our level of emotional intelligence and consciousness. So, from doing that, and this is with your heart and solar plexus working together. So you have the safety and the purity held within the heart chakra. And then between that and the solar plexus, they're interlinking and they're communicating and understanding what is pure, what isn't. Okay, this what is sovereign to me and what isn't. Okay, these are the questions that we can ask our guts, especially if we're having digestion issues. And I will say that I have been on a methyl gut cleanse, like taking activated charcoal, zeolite, clay, and also wormwood, clove, and black walnut as interacting between the two to help start to clear out my gut. Because I was getting this sense of heavy metals and parasitic. So it's all about just trying to release and support my body from a physical perspective whilst I'm doing this energetic work to help it move through with ease and grace. So if the body's a bit sluggish, to be able to move through, obviously taking these I can't even say the word, that the supplements, the zeolites and the charcoals, helping the body clear the gut out so the gut can move through a lot quicker. So it doesn't hang around in stagnancy and sluggish way, which affects our energy levels, our mood, in terms of irritability and toxicity. So, and I did feel like this week has been significant. And one of the days, and I can't tell you exactly which one, I felt exceptionally heavy, like really like leaden, trying to get out of bed. I'm like, oh my word, this is exhausting. I'm really exhausted. So I needed so much more water than normal. I even could tell, I'm not going to share everything, but I could tell in my urine, it was darker than normal. It wasn't the beetroot that I'd eaten. So I was having to drink more. It's like my kidneys needed more detox. It needed the fluid water moving this through. This is what we have to really support our bodies to help our minds and everything else to integrate this whole process that we're doing. This isn't just about being in our mind. And yes, we're there when we're breathing and we're connecting through these meditations and these visualization journeys, but we really need to support the process by doing the work for us physically. So that's one part of it. Another realization during this whole process of consolidation, bringing back one's power and energy, is actually the other aspect of the Cinderella archetype. So what was really interesting, one of the cards that was chosen last week was about blessings, but they won't necessarily be gift wrapped. They'll come in a way that you won't realize or think is a blessing, and it will take time to process to realize. Well, I've got two aspects of that, and I will share that with you now. So the Cinderella archetype, what it showed me the weekend is that for my language of love for my children, I just did loads of stuff around the house, making them nice food and just tidying up, not asking them to do too much. And so when it came to them getting prickly back or just asking, seeking my emotional support, I wasn't there for them because I was tired. I'd physically exhausted myself by giving, okay? And what the highlight of this is actually showing me the transition of motherhood. The mother aspect of when our children are younger, we need to be there more physically for them. We need to do more things for them physically because they need that. They're dependent on us. But as they grow, they don't need that. And because of the three aspects of the feminine, the maiden, the mother, the crone or wise woman, women don't know there is much beyond motherhood. One, they don't know. Two, they don't like the other part because the other part, the crone, has been haunted by our patriarchal system. It's you've seen as witches, the old hag, basically. You're just a miserable old tyrant, and let's just put you there. All the fairy tale stories show you the maiden being rescued by the prince, and then you've got some old witch in the background causing trouble. There's so much deep subconscious programming we've got going on that we need to really unpick. And so actually the woman in her wise woman stage is when she's in her most powerful. And actually when for her to step into that, she needs to be doing less. She needs to be less physically available in terms of doing and be more present in herself, in her energy levels, in her emotion, in her wisdom, because she has been doing this process of alchemy, this emotional intelligence, this inner gold. It also, the pineal gland, the psychic abilities awakens more, which is interesting. As I'm saying that, I've noticed these last few days, all of a sudden I'm seeing things happen before they've happened. I'm being shown that. So it's quite interesting. That's had a clearing and I've seen something shift for me. So not only have women not necessarily known about this wise woman stage, they fear it or it's haunted for them. So they don't want to step into it. So they often will stay in the mother. Also, it's the grief of our children. They're still with us, but the part of us that is needed for them isn't needed anymore. And so the the fact that being needed, that dependency is all a transition and a shifting. Then what my children really need is not for me to run around after them. I certainly don't need that. They might like that, but it's not what they need. They're not here to be mothered. And in fact, I have 2 boys, and I feel this is really important, or I have to share, is that they're not to be mothered. So they actually grow into being a man in a body, a man in a man's body, not a boy in a man's body. And this is really important for us as mothers, to be able to give ourselves that space and that time and that rest to be emotionally present and hold space for the feminine, to enable our children, especially our daughters, of course, but our men as well, to understand that feminine and that femininity within them too, and that intelligence and that wisdom within them too. So this is huge in terms of awakening that wise woman, loving that wise woman, knowing that there's a place for that wise woman. In fact, it's like a pinnacle part of community, of humanity, to enable the generations to come through. And as I'm saying this, there's not many other mammals that go through menopause. The whales do, orca whales do. And you think of the grandmother, the matriarchy, they are sharing great wisdom to enable the youth to come through. So they keep carrying it forward rather than having to keep relearning. This is what keeps them alive. This is why they survive and they last longer and they thrive. Not just survival, thriving. Okay, and that's the difference. And I think, as I'm saying this, is that humanity is in survival, whereas when the women step up and they're wise women, this is about thriving. Okay, this is about being more conscious. So this is huge. And in terms of what started this off as Daughters of Golden Rose was birthing a new era. This is what it was shown to me, showing me this, the 9 circles, the seed, the blueprint. This is about us women that have mothered in some form. Doesn't always have to be children. So don't, if you're a mum that hasn't had, sorry, if you're a mum that hasn't had children, if you're a woman that hasn't had children, this isn't excluding you whatsoever. In fact, it's celebrating, because you well have been creating something in your own way that humanity is needed. And so this is when we're really shifting into being able to hold this space and hold humanity individually and collectively for our own little families, and together as communities, and those communities together as countries, etc., etc. And that was one of the blessings, as much as I hit the roof over it because I was exhausted, and I didn't let my shame come in, to, oh, I'm such a shit mom for having this blowout and blah blah blah. I just took responsibility. I said, hey dudes, yep, I'm shit. So that's that really rubbish thing, a way of behaving, totally wrong. This wasn't it's not, certainly not how I wanted it, and this is because of me being totally exhausted, trying to share all my love to you by doing stuff. But when you actually wanted to come back and ask, or querying stuff, it triggered me. I am not enough, and therefore I wasn't present and available for them to say, you're not hearing me, you're not listening to me. So it's just hugely powerful when you can be conscious of this. And I just took responsibility, apologized, and actually said to him, right, you can start doing more around the house. Okay, that's it. That's simple. Boom. One of my children has actually gone, yep, love it, because he wants the independence. The other one's a bit lazy, but so he'll have to be a little bit more coaching. But that's fine. This is the importance that we are here as for ourselves and for our children and for the people around us. And then there was a really big one for me. Now, the activation, and if you look at the activation itself, is minor. But the activation was huge in terms of what it was for me viscerally. And so what this came from was blindsided trauma, which took me back to when I was 4 years old, when I was abused, basically. And I believe it was from when I was on my birthday. And I was just in absolute, obviously on your birthday, you're having a great time, right? And it's just struck me. You know, if you've been a naughty kid or something like that, you think, oh God, I'm going to get it now. You know it's happening. You know, not looking forward to it, but you know it's happening. This was at right smack, did not know it was coming. And it shook me through into my solar plexus and into my womb. And because me knowing, it was just purely from an exchange of WhatsApp messages, which is an interesting thing, because if you think WhatsApp messages, you're opening yourself up and boom, there's a voice, right? Whereas if emails, for instance, you open something up and you can read it, and often, like you say, you read an email through your own voice, so it's sort of you talking as you're reading it. But when someone's on a WhatsApp message, it's their voice. Boom, there it is. Unlike if you're in person with somebody, you will unconsciously already be reading someone's persona and their energy field. So your body unconsciously will be preparing for whatever it is. Whereas this, I was not prepared. Okay. Very open. Poof. And what it did, it would triggered the I am too much. And which is interestingly, because my other fear is I'm not enough. Put those two fears together and you realize you're in freeze, right? Nothing can move. I'm not enough, so I can't do anything right. I've done too much. I am too much. Like, you don't do anything. And this is the freeze mode of what the neural systems can go into. So you've got fight, flight, and then freeze. That's a freeze. All right. And this activation of something very minor activated that, which was actually a huge blessing. At the time, it didn't feel like it. But I knew through just being able to hold more curiosity of myself and go, there's something deeper here that's going on here. There's something definitely, especially when it came into the womb, I was like, there's trauma here. So it showed me childhood trauma. And the most beautiful thing about all of this was the fact that the person that I was exchanging with, what that question came up to me is, am I safe with this person? That was the trigger. Am I safe here with this person? That was the question that was coming up. But last session, the last activation, it was about bringing in safety in self, safety in your body to enable them to open up the throat chakra, to move things through. That was what we did. And through that work, upon this is all retrospective reflection, okay? I'm not sitting here on a beautiful stone going, I know exactly what's going on. This is the process that I go through. I realized that actually, because of that activation, the question, am I safe with this person? Because I have embodied safety in myself and desiring truth, communication, and not from blame, not from trying to get someone to take responsibility or expecting anybody to say anything, but just purely just to say, this is how I've experienced this interaction. I'm curious what this is, because our relationship is very an interesting way of showing up for each other. So it just felt like a really important gift in some way to be shared. But my normal pattern would have been shut down. Shut down. Pretend you're all right, but just shut down. Close, withdraw. Okay? That's what my initial response was. But my actual kingship, the wanting that relationship and the value of that relationship made me step up. It made me say, let's have a conscious conversation. And it was beautiful. And that's come from having safety within me. And it was a beautiful conversation. It was seen like how irrelevant it really was. But the activation was like, it meant to have happened. It was meant to happen to shock me to my core, into my system. Like I say, the actual interaction was so tiny, but what it did was shock my system to connect to where my trauma, my wounds were. That's the blessing. when you can hold it and not go into the drama and the story of it. Okay, you come into it with curiosity. This is the massive difference. And the fact that I shifted a pattern of survival, withdrawal, don't say anything, to actually step up and say something, shitloads of healing from that. Loads. And in fact, it strengthens the relationship even more. That builds safety when people can hold space for each other and communicate. It's huge, really huge. And it's for women as well, which I'll share in a minute of why that is so important too. And after the conversation, I had this huge, like, trauma leaving my body. Not because of the conversation. It wasn't that did it, is because it was a healing conversation that enabled my body to hold that safety and release. Okay, so that makes sense. It wasn't the conversation that made my system go funny. It was the fact that because of all the conversation, it was so healing that it enabled my body to let go. And so it wasn't nervous stress having a weird reaction. It was actually because of the love and the safety that we'd created, my body was able to release. This is huge. This is absolutely massive for me. And I'm sharing this because I believe in some way this will relate. We will go very similar things in our own different ways. And so having that flu-like, just feeling tired and weird and sicky, I just knew my body was letting go. So I went into just do self-care, warm bath, Epsom salts. Water for me is my healing. Probably being Cancerian, it just soothes me. It's where I'm home. And also when you're connecting into the heart, I do this, I connect into the heart, I connect into the water and the plasma that's in my body, to the water that's around me, seeking balance with them and interaction so my body can let go of what it doesn't need. And so that was huge. And I'm saying huge a lot because it is. And this is the difference, is this is the work of the feminine. Now, it might not look like this big show circus, all this kind of thing going on, which is the masculine. The feminine it's so subtle, but it's a fundamental significant shift. It's like the essence that enables the tide to turn, that just moves and shifts it around. This is huge. When we're doing these deep layered shifts, it takes us on a completely different course and out from the old patterns that you might not go, boom, this really happened there and then I can draw it exactly when it happened. But somehow there's been a huge significant shift. You don't quite know when it's happened, but you can feel it. And when you give yourself that space and time to look and reflect, think, wow, yeah, actually how I interacted with that person or how I'm feeling about this. And there's a massive change. And so this is the work that we've been doing with the Daughters of the Golden Rose. This is about the interaction, the activation, and now finally, this is the consolidation of self. What do we really hold within us? What is our truth and our power and all the energy in our soul sovereignty in ourselves? This is like a massive reclamation of our truth and our power and connection. And then I realized, as I was writing all of this morning, and I decided about allowing my Shakti mat. Do love a Shakti mat. Very good. If you haven't got one, get one. Really brilliant stuff. It just, I don't know, it's just amazing. And as I laid there thinking about this trauma that was within my womb and the childhood trauma that had been shocked with the abuse there, the blindsided shock and trauma, and the safety and the connection with woman to woman, I started to cry because it went deeper than that. And I kind of had an inkling it did, but obviously the childhood thing in my present is the first thing to deal with, right? It's the first layer. Layering underneath that was the trauma of woman to woman, the betrayal of a woman to a woman. And it showed me how women would have held humanity. They would have held through frequency, through connection in a circle of one another, this higher frequency on earth for us to be in. They were like the seraphim, the earth angels of Sophia, holding this high vibration on earth to hold that and ensure everybody stayed within that vibration. Something happened a long time ago where that got inverted, where fear crept in, where women started to distrust women. That's when it all began to start to fall. This is where I see Atlantis fell. And this is where the deepest betrayal sits. It's not man to woman. That is huge. That's big. And often we get just stay in that wound. But it's also the woman to woman. And the interest, and I did cry at that point, just as it released through me that trauma that sits in our wombs, and it will sit in all of our wombs. This is generational. And eventually we'll all connect back into that, where that happened, where that began. We all hold that within us. And that at some point may well shift through you too. And so upon sharing that, releasing that, I realized that actually this was what part of the Daughters of the Golden Rose was about women holding women. And for us to do that in total unconditional love, we've got to work through these shadows too. And it has to be open. It has to be open consciousness, safety with each other, calling out all our BS systems, the comparison, the not wanting somebody else to do well because that then makes you think you're not going to do well. It's like that scarcity fear that because they're doing it, I can't have it. Rather than seeing, wow, someone's really doing it. That means I can do it too. You see, we will all have that in us. I know I've had it and it's come up as a thought and I've gone, ooh, that's a horrible thought. And then you can either attach yourself to that thought and think, oh God, I'm so shit and I've had this shame. You can either act on that thought because you haven't even any consciousness whatsoever about it. But because it popped up into my head, I'm like, I don't want this thought. And I actually expressed it actually to the same person. This was a little while ago. Oh my God, I've had this really shitty thought. And actually, it's not my truth. I don't want it, but I'm just sharing it because I know it's a collective thing. And we need to heal this because if we put a shackle on a woman because we don't want her to succeed because it makes us feel shit about ourselves, and we're shackling ourselves too. And this is what we really need to start to realize as women, is that we're holding ourselves down when we hold each other down. Okay. And yeah, so just massive revelations really. And it's yeah, where do I go from that? Yeah, it's just simply we need to be able to go through this process and journal and reflect and shift out of the drama, the story, the victim, and be curious when you're activated. Go, oh, okay, what's all this about? I can feel it in my body. I'm honoring it. I'm sitting with this. I'll be with this. And be curious and thank it for sharing you with what you need to know. What is it that you need to learn? Where is the blessing? Where is the gold? Which is what, again, like I said last week, was about seeing the blessings, even if they're not gift wrapped. And it can come in quite a significant way, which these all did for me. But I can see it now and I've felt it and I've processed it. And it's not just intellectualized it, I have physically moved it through my body. This is the innate wisdom. This is the gold. This is our insight. This is the wise woman. This is all about stepping into our wise woman, okay, and holding that space for other wise women for us to hold as humanity and collectively. So I thank you dearly for listening and for being part of this. And I will be doing the meditation separately to this, but I would recommend to give yourself some time to just process and to think about this. And we'll see you on the next meditation. Take care.